Hi, I'm Ellie of Faye and Ellie's Book Nook. Welcome back to the Book Nook. So I thought that I would do a July wrap up and tell you a bit about the books that I read in July. I didn't read as many as I would have liked to have read, but the ones that I read were really cool. So here we go. The first book I actually read was Women in Science, 50 Pioneers Who Changed the World. It was actually sent to me by Faye, my beautiful channel partner, and I cannot thank her enough for this. It was so lovely to read. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a series of illustrated children's books, and it has stories about women in science from across the centuries who have been sort of left out by history. And it's so beautifully written, it's so beautifully illustrated. It made me feel so happy reading it because I got to read all of these amazing stories of all these fearless and really brave and courageous and really smart women from across the sort of centuries. This is what the illustrations look like. It has a beautiful illustration of the woman scientist and then a little bit about her life story. And around the edge they have a bit of little facts and stories about the scientists. I'd really recommend this as a children's book, but it's also really good for adults. The next book that I read was Civil War, a Marvel comic book event. This is one of the best events that Marvel has done in the last couple of decades. The story takes place after a couple of rogue superheroes cause a massive explosion which kills many people, and people start to demand accountability from superheroes. So the US government puts in the Superhero Accountability Act, which would require superheroes to register. And as you probably know from the movie, Iron Man is completely in favour of this, whereas Captain America believes it's an affront to freedom, and a war breaks out between the superheroes. Whilst I absolutely love the movie, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this one is so much more complex, so it has so many more characters, looks way more into the sort of moral arguments behind each side, and has way less Tony Stark. This one is actually the collection of what's called the essential reads. When Marvel or DC does these volumes, these published graphic novels, they tend to be not the whole story, but you get the essential issues from each one. And I would really recommend this one, and I would really recommend it reading all of the extra materials that come with it. I believe that they do collections for each individual character during Civil War. They do things like Captain America Civil War, Iron Man Civil War on the front lines, so you can get the whole story. I also read the Illuminate files, which were absolutely amazing. The first one, Illuminate, was recommended to me by Faye, who sort of kind of threw it at me and said, you need to read this book. It's one of the best books that I've read in the last couple of years. It's so gripping, it's so unique, it's so creative, it's so emotional. I just can't even tell you how much I love this book and how much I had to read Gemini straight after, and how much I'm looking forward to the last one. It's set out like a spy dossier, so you read all sorts of different documents. You read things like interview transcripts and CCTV transcriptions. It's such an interesting new way of telling a story that tells you the story from all sides but doesn't give you the full story straight away. The story starts on a planet called Carenza, where there's been an illegal mining operation of some sort of mineral, I believe, which has been attacked by the competitor of the mining company, who want to take the mine for themselves. The governing body then takes thousands of refugees on 3 different ships towards the jump point Heimdall, where they can reach the sort of core of the sort of civilization, so they can report what's happened, but they're being pursued by the rival company who want to destroy all evidence of what's happened. And it sort of depicts 2 individuals, Katie and Ezra's sort of battle to not only survive the ship that's after them, but the sort of treachery and the deceit and the lies and the sort of dangerous situations going on board the ship. Just amazing to read, and I recommend you all read it before the next one comes out. Immediately after, I had to read Gemini. I can't tell you too much about this one without spoiling Illuminate, so I will probably do a review of these 2 books soon. This one follows on from Illuminate, but with a different cast of characters, and what I really enjoyed about that is that you got to meet new characters, but you didn't lose the old characters as well. It felt familiar, but it also felt brand new. It felt fresh. But I do have a few criticisms of the plot of this one, which I'll probably talk about in the review. So the last thing that I read in July was my comic books. I have a couple of subscriptions from forbiddenplanet.com, who send me sort of one sort of shipment of comic books every month of what I've subscribed to. This is really exciting for me because in the last week of every month I get like a brand new set of like comic books. So I just wanted to go through the series that I'm currently reading, what I'm loving about them, which ones I'm thinking about reading, and why you should read them too. The first one I'm reading is Darth Vader. What happened after Disney took over Marvel and then eventually Star Wars is that Marvel became in charge of doing all of the Star Wars comic books after what is known as the Great Extended Universe Purge, which I will probably go into a bit more detail, but basically Disney made all of the comic book material from before they took over Star Wars non-canon, so they had to replace it, and they gave it over to Marvel, who are sort of celebrated comic book artists and writers. This one is an amazing series. They did a run last year, I believe it was 2015 to 2016, which detailed Darth Vader between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. But this one is just after Revenge of the Sith ends. So it was really interesting to me because it seems like there's a huge gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, where you want to know a bit more about Darth Vader's story. What I love about the Star Wars comic books is they all start with a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, so they feel like they're part of the universe. And I'm obviously a huge Star Wars fan, so it helps me get through the long waits between movies. This story is actually detailing Darth Vader's sort of completion of his training as a Sith Lord, and I'm super excited because it's raised loads more questions about Sith Lords in general and Sith lore, and it's allowing Disney and Lucasfilm to answer these questions anew. Following on from my Star Wars nerd, I also read Poe Dameron. This is a series that just details the Resistant pilot's journey to find Lord Santeca, which is what he was doing at the beginning of The Force Awakens, looking for the map to Luke Skywalker. But there's a lot of obstacles and sort of fights in his way that he needs to get through, and he is followed around by his trusted companion BB-8, who I absolutely adore, and it's just so amazing, this one. I just can't tell you how amazing this one is. There are now 2 volumes, I believe, of Poe Dameron's issues, which have been sort of put into a published graphic novel like Civil War has been, and I believe that they'll be doing a 3rd one when they have enough issues collected. This is a long-going issue now. It's been going on since early 2016, so it's been around for a while, and it doesn't seem to be having any signs of going anywhere. What I love about Star Wars comic books is they actually continue, whereas Marvel have real problems recently where they end series too soon, or they cancel things too quickly, or they have 6-issue storylines, and it's just really hard to get into anything Marvel's doing right now. But I will probably do an entire video on why I love comic books and why everyone should read them. The final thing that I read is Saga. After the Secret Empire event began, I decided that I wasn't comfortable reading any Marvel comic books for the time being and decided to find something a bit more independent and a bit more unique, and I was sort of directed towards Saga by a friend. This series is amazing, and I recommend that everyone get the volumes, which are published as a graphic novel. I believe that we have 7 now. They do 6-issue arcs, so what happens is they do 6 issues, 1 per month, and then they take a couple of months off, and then they do another 6. It's like a TV series. This series follows 2 individuals called Marco and Alana, I think that's how you say her name, who are 2 individuals from 2 different species, from 2 different planets, who are currently at war. They've fallen in love and they've had a daughter called Hazel, and both governments from both planets want to get rid of the family because they don't want the war to end in a way. They don't want people to start believing that the 2 species can coexist, so whilst they're on the run, they are also figuring out how to be a family and dealing with all sorts of mischief and dangers. The story is just so unique and so lovely, and it's so diverse. There's so much representation going on, and there's so much discussion of social issues. I actually binged the first 43 issues of this series in one weekend because I enjoyed the first issue so much they had to keep going. I recommend going back to the first issue and starting from the beginning if you're going to get into it, and it's just amazing. So that is my July book wrap up. I know it's extremely late at this point and we're nearly at the end of August, but I really wanted to sort of tell you guys what I was reading right now. I will definitely do a video about comic books in the sort of near future, so if there's any questions you have about reading comic books or sort of where to buy them, or where's the who are the best sort of artists, who are the best comic book houses, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer in the video. And yeah, I'm really excited about that one. I am Ellie of Faye and Ellie's Book Nook. See you next time. Bye!